I know you're all examining my body and examining my voice, trying to decide whether I'm male or female. I must be one, right? I must be either male or female. I am both male and female. I have both male and female organs. I have a penis and I have a brain. As a young child, I was very expressive and free. I played with Barbie dolls. I had Barbie doll fashion shows. I even had my own catwalk. I would walk around the house swinging from hip to hip with attitude. But things changed. Things changed when I went to school. For the first time, I realized I was different. Difference is discovered when you compare one thing to another. I compared myself to the other boys in my class, and I realized I was different. The other boys in my class liked football, and I didn't. I couldn't pretend to either. I couldn't pretend to be the typical boy. I decided it would be easier for myself, to hide myself. I became generic and unnoticed. I became a person without personality and individuality. I had so much personality and individuality, but I couldn't express it. Expressing it would have left me vulnerable to bullying, and I didn't want to take that risk. I love the expression, why fit in when you were born to stand out? But we forget, when you are unique, in order to survive and to stay alive, often you have to fit in. There was an expectation in my neighborhood that the boys would play football together outside. Girls could stay indoors, but the boys had to be outside playing football. I had to as well. A neighbor would knock on my door and ask me to play football, and I'd have to oblige. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I hated it so much. So I asked my mom to call out and pretend that dinner was ready. I would then have an excuse to come inside, and I would stay in for the night. It's sad, isn't it? Having to do that. Having to ask your mother to do that. Having to ask your mother to lie. That is what I, little Ivan, had to do. But I'm very lucky to have a mother who would do that for me, who would do it for me without question, who would love and accept me, who would provide me with that refuge. It's sad to think then that despite my mom providing such a loving and accepting home, she couldn't control outside influences that would harm me. After primary school, I went to secondary school, and my conforming continued. But things were different now because my peers were expressing their sexualities. My heterosexual peers were openly flirting with one another, but I couldn't. I envied them. I had to suppress my youth and my sexuality. I had to pretend that I didn't fancy anyone. I had to pretend that I didn't want someone special. I couldn't openly declare my same-sex crushes. When you have to hide something, you learn that it is considered to be wrong. I learned that who I am is considered to be wrong. After secondary school, I went to university, and this marked a change. I met people who were like me, people who felt what I felt, thought what I thought, and experienced what I experienced. I started to let my true self shine also. I started to learn more about myself. Around this time, I started modeling too. And I wanted to model in my way, by my rules, on my own terms. I wanted to empower and express myself. I wanted to be creative and free. After 3 years of study, it was time for me to graduate. And I started to think about what I wanted to wear to my graduation. And it was clear to me that I wanted to wear high heels. And I knew that I would if I lived in an ideal world. But I don't live in an ideal world, so I started to second-guess myself. I spoke with my mother and asked her what she thought. And at first she said, okay. But then she said, I did raise you to be strong and brave. And this was a time when I was going to be very strong and very brave. My graduation was a special day for me, not only because I graduated with a degree from university, but also because I graduated into my true self. The little boy I once was wore high heels to his graduation. How amazing is that? Graduation ceremonies are very traditional and formal. Everybody gets dressed up. Boys in their suits and girls in their dresses. Everything is typical and expected. So many things in society are traditional, and this status of tradition gives them legitimacy. Traditions are ingrained in society and they go unquestioned. But not all traditions are good. Homophobia, sexism, racism, etc. are all technically traditional. Traditions and norms are two evil best friends. Together they oppress, they exclude rather than include, and they do not allow diversity. I had to break tradition and norms because the graduation form was set before I was born. I had to break tradition and norms to be myself. I had to break tradition and norms to give myself visibility. If I didn't break tradition and norms, I wouldn't have been at my graduation. My conforming self would have been at my graduation. I would have been there passively incognito. But I was at my graduation, the real me. After my graduation, I learned a lot about gender. I saw how pervasive gender is in society. Gender is such a strong force, so much so that I say that gender is stronger than gravity. Just like gravity pulls objects down to earth, gender pulls humans down too. Gender dictates how you should be, how you should express yourself, and how you should live. I believe gender should be liberating, not limiting. After years of absorbing negative messages from society about gender, sexuality, clothing, and bodies, I had to restart my relationship with myself and my body. I hated myself. I hated my body. I was ashamed of my body. Society condemns my body because it is unique. My body is ambiguous. It can easily look male, female, or unisex. But now I love my body. I'm very proud of it. It is what makes me me, and it is my unique selling point. I also hated the word man because I felt like I could never be a man. And in many ways I actually couldn't. Because to be a man, I would have to abide by strict male gender norms that would limit me. The word man is heavily loaded with gender normative imagery and meaning. But now I realize I am a man. I am my own version of a man. I will define what being a man is for me. I am more of a man than most, with or without high heels. Some people ask why I wear high heels, and I always answer because I have feet. It's that simple. It's that simple for me. I don't get it. I have feet, why wouldn't I wear high heels? As I say, if the shoe fits, wear it and wear it well. Some people also might consider me a cross-dresser. But there is no cross-dressing, there is just dressing. Women can wear trousers and they aren't considered cross-dressers. But when I wear high heels, I am. Isn't that interesting? I am always the same person. I am always Ivan. There is no crossing. It's easy for me to be myself online, but it's harder for me to express myself in public. I get nervous and afraid. Nervous and afraid of what you might do. Nervous and afraid that you will say something that will make me feel worthless or that I will get assaulted. If you see me or someone like me in public, don't act, stare, or comment. Don't interfere in someone else's happiness. Don't police how someone should act, look, or dress. Question why you'd be so surprised to see me in public. Ask yourself why you'd be so shocked to see a boy in makeup or a man with a handbag. Is it really that big a deal? Is it really that shocking? There are over 7 billion people on Earth right now. Surely we have to expect to see diversity. If you expect to see diversity, you won't be shocked when you do. Initial shock and surprise is understandable because we are all indoctrinated by norms. As much as we are raised by our parents and families, we are raised by norms too. But we must question these norms. We must be norm aware and norm critical. We must see how norms restrict and oppress people and change that. I believe there is masculinity and femininity within all of us, whether we are aware of it or not. We all have masculine and feminine qualities. But depending on what you were assigned at birth, you have to suppress one and exaggerate the other. We learn to value one over the other, when in actual fact both are equally valuable. I believe in order to be authentic and free, you have to express both the femininity and masculinity within yourself. But society sets us up to fail. Society tells us to aspire to just male or female, when actually we are all a mix of both. Our personalities, our beings, our energies are a mix of both. We are made to be gender oppressed, gender depressed, gender phobic, gender closed. We should be gender open, gender expressive. We need to be more expressive and more open. Expression is healthy, and it is what makes us human. Homophobia, transphobia, genderphobia, sexism, racism, etc. all restrict and limit human potential. Imagine our collective potential if we were all our true selves and we allowed others to be their true selves as well. Imagine the positive and transformative effect that would have on the world. Diversity is reality. We shouldn't be afraid of it. Let's celebrate and embrace diversity. Thank you.